right, we're going to sit back and relax and have a good time tonight. And we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Never Too Late, Real Stories of Reinvention, where we share the stories of dream chasers, career changers, and people with the courage to reinvent themselves. I'm Eric Cooter, and each episode I sit down with someone who has taken a leap, discovered a new path, or found joy in the unexpected. These conversations are about hope, resilience, and remind us all that it's never too late to chase your dreams. All right, that's behind us. I am so excited that I get a chance tonight to spend some time with a friend of mine from the great state of Oklahoma. We did ministry together back in the day. Well, it wasn't that many days ago. But my dear friend, the Reverend Dr. John Toles. John, may I call you John tonight, sir? Or would you
Absolutely, please do.
Would you like me to call you Father? Because you could call me Father. Then it'd be really weird tonight. So
I think we'd stumble all over the place.
We'd be all over the place. All right, John, it's such a joy to be with you and see you again. It's been a couple years, brother. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I'll let John tell a little bit about his story. He is an amazing guy who has not only reinvented himself, but he's doing so many amazing things. I cannot wait for him to tell you about his story. But before we get started, John, do you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about how you and I met in, I guess it was 2020s when I moved out to your neck of the woods, but it's probably a little bit after that when you and I first had a chance to say hi to each other. But if you want to tell the folks how we met and how our paths crossed.
Well, I think our paths crossed in the middle of that four-letter word known as COVID. And you can see I'm really good at spelling. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times, I suppose. We were both in ministry and we were both attempting to serve the people of God in the midst of a shutdown and a plague and everything else. And it was an opportunity for people like us to team up and to try to do what God is calling us to in the midst of a very new world.
It sure was, my friend. Yeah, I just can't imagine how many times that I was in meetings with people using Zoom, kind of like we're doing now for the podcast, and trying to do pastoral care through Zoom or trying to do services through Zoom, and oh my goodness, what a difficult time it was. But we actually got a chance to kind of come through some of that too together. So
Absolutely,
and get on the other side. So John, can you tell the folks a little bit about where are you serving now and what your role is and how long have you been there? Just a little background on your ministry.
Well, I have been serving at St. Matthew's in Enid, Oklahoma, which is an Episcopal church. I have been here it was 10 years on March 1st. And prior to that, I had served about 10 years in the Diocese of Montana. When I started there, I had 3 churches, and then I had 4 churches, and then I had 5 churches, and then I lost my mind and said, let's move to Oklahoma. That's got to be a lot easier down there. But it was, right now, I very much enjoyed. There was never really a time in my life prior to moving to Oklahoma that I said, you know what, someday I really hope to live in Oklahoma. And today I wouldn't trade it with anyone. I would not trade it with anyone. It's a beautiful state. The people are quite remarkable. And the parish that I serve in, they're good. They're good people. They're very good people.
They are, for sure. Well, they're blessed to have you as their priest as well, my friend. You're a good pastor and definitely a very good priest for sure. So you're not only a priest, and we'll get into this a little bit, but you've done some other things and are doing other things now. We'll get into that in a little bit. And before we dive into all that, did I understand correctly that you grew up in Louisiana?
I grew up in Louisiana. I grew up primarily in the little town of Springhill, which is right on the Louisiana-Arkansas line. And if you throw a rock, you can hit Hope, Arkansas. That's about where it's at.
Okay.
And it was, I couldn't tell you how many people lived there, probably 7,500. It was a town that had a paper mill. And when the paper mill closed, based on my memories of it, the town kind of closed, but I think they're still
Yeah.
there. So yeah. But I grew up in Louisiana and went to high school in Shreveport. I got to attend a magnet high school in Shreveport, first class to graduate from that high school, Caddo Parish Magnet High School. Shout out to them. Um, it was a wonderful experience. It has a lot of color there, a lot of good food. I got to tell you that too. So,
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. Oh, I love food from Louisiana. Yes, sir, for sure. Well, one of the things I've learned with a lot of the folks I've been talking to on the podcast, I'm now up to, I think you're my sixth guest now already in just a very short period of
wonderful.
time. And I'm so blessed to have you with us. So, one of the things I'm learning is the number of people that when they were growing up, they had several people, sometimes one, two, but there were people that stood out as those folks that saw gifts in us that we couldn't see in ourselves. They became our coaches and our mentors and people who encouraged us. Is there anybody that stands out to you and when you were growing up that kind of served that role for you? Someone who really encouraged you and saw gifts in you that you couldn't see in yourself?
I think there were probably two people. The first, my parents were divorced when I was very young, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. And we moved in with my grandparents. And my grandfather was um, he was old school and he was very quiet. He was a quiet man.
Hmm.
But he was a man who taught me how to fish and to hunt. He taught me how to think. Um, he shared wisdom that was oftentimes quite simple, as from um, gardening and how to mow a yard,
Oh yeah.
how to clean a fish. I mean, silly. So to some people that might not mean anything, but to me, it was somebody who taught me how to live in the world a little bit, and
Yeah.
I was able to watch him. And then when I was in high school, the vice principal of the high school was a fellow by the name of Henry Price, and I don't necessarily. He was a very quiet man, but I don't know that I would have necessarily made it through high school if it hadn't been for Henry Price. He was a tremendous father. Well, I say father. I called him Pops,
Did
and
you?
I think I was the only person in high school that get away with calling him anything other than Mr. Price. But I called him Pops, and he was a wonderful man, and I highly respected him. And when he looked at me, it was enough to bring me back in line. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how we have those kind of people in our lives that stand out? I know I have some, and
Mhm.
I've talked about those folks. And what would our lives have been like if we didn't have folks like that actually, help mold who we are today, just out of love, their love and care for us. So I'm glad you had folks like that. So
Indeed.
in high school. So after high school, you went on to college. Talk a little bit about that and the early work that you were doing, because I think all this kind of plays into eventually talking about ministry and some of the other things you're doing. But
Sure.
tell me a little bit about college and what you wound up doing. I think we share a similar background. Go.
When I was in college, when I graduated high school, I immediately went into college, which for me was probably a stupid idea. But I attended 1 year at University of Texas of Arlington, and then circumstances, finances, and all that, I ended up in a community college, which was fine. I worked with that, and I remember sitting in a history class, and the guy, the professor, he was probably very smart, but he was blaming all the world's problems on religion. And for whatever reason, he looked at me and he said, "You look like you're absolutely bored." And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I am." And I got up and I walked out and I quit school for a year and a half. And I worked in a kennel, a dog kennel, where we boarded like 200 dogs and about 30 cats every weekend. And I did that for a year and a half. And after a year and a half, it was like, you know what? I really don't want to scoop dog poop for the rest of my life.
I love it.
And that was a motivation for me to get back into college. And I attended Stephen F. Austin University, where I got a BBA. And it was it was that point where I realized that I wanted to do this. It was something. I mean, I didn't mind scooping poop. I mean, whatever it is. But um, I wanted to get my degree at that point. I
Mhm.
wanted to continue my education and see what I could do at that point. So yeah.
Sure. Was there so that point where you made that decision, you kind of hit a point. What was there a specific event, or was it you said, okay, I've been doing this so long with the dog picking up scoop and poop that
Yeah.
I need to do something else?
It was waking up at 5:30 in the morning. There's nothing wrong with hard work. I don't.
No, no.
Anybody puts in a hard day's labor, I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
But I felt like I had some gifts and talents that I might be able to use, and so I asked, and I looked at it and I said, I'm ready now, because I knew
okay,
I wanted to continue my education. I wanted to continue to learn and that sort of thing,
sure.
and so when the time when it was right, I went, and when I went, I was truly ready.
Yeah. And I get that. I do because I wound up quitting school. I was in college. I quit for a year and worked full time, and then I went back and got my degree. And I also have a BBA.
Yeah,
You majored in marketing though, right?
I did.
Yeah, I went the management track. We had a lot of marketing classes, but I went the management track. What was the appealing nature of marketing for you? Was there something that why did you choose marketing?
At some point in my life, and don't judge me by this, because this goes back to the 80s and not the current political situation, but at some point, and that was back in the day when you had these fantastic movies. You had Wall Street,
Oh,
and you had, oh gosh, I wish I could remember the movie. I'm not going to think of it. But you had all these wonderful movies about these young kids making it big, doing business stuff. And in my dorm in college, I had the Wall Street Journal, and they would come out with these one-page ads of initial public offerings for $800 million. I didn't have posters of beautiful women on my walls. I had posters of these initial public offerings on my wall. It was like,
that was
this
your
is where I'm going.
that was your centerfold, right?
Yeah, that was my centerfold. I was like all excited about that sort of thing. And so I started out thinking, this is who I want to be. And this is what I'm going to do with my life.
You and I, we should talk more often because we share that. My aspirations were based on the movie Wall Street. I chose my business degree,
Yeah.
or for a similar reason. Is my gosh, you can make a lot of money. You can be successful. You can go to you can go to Wall Street and do that. And so that movie was great. There was another one too with Michael
Michael
J.
J.
Fox.
Fox. That's the one I
Yes.
can't remember. It's like,
Another one.
yeah,
Yeah, he winds up in the mailroom because his uncle or something's a big wig in the company. Yeah. So I
that's the
got it.
one.
Yeah, we're 80s kids. We're 80s kids. I'm the same way. I wanted to, and I'm like you. You said you were always wanting to learn. I'm a consummate learner. I grew up with the World Book encyclopedias at my mom and dad's house, at our house growing up. And on Sunday afternoons when nothing else was going on, I pull those out and I would read because I wanted to learn something.
Yeah,
So I'm constantly wanting to learn. So you
constantly.
so you get your degree in marketing. What happened after that?
I got my degree in marketing. I graduated in, I don't know, 89 or something like that. I moved back home with my dad and his wife. And like the first day I got home, my dad said, "Okay, I'm proud of you. You've done good. You've got 6 months." And I think that was the swift kick in the rear end that I needed. Within 6 months, I had a job working for a marketing firm in Dallas.
Oh
I
wow.
had my own apartment. I had bought a car. I remember it was a Nissan Sentra. I thought I was the coolest kid in
Oh
school.
yeah.
And I was cruising, and I was upwardly mobile at that point.
Hmm.
And I worked in that job for 6 years.
Hmm.
I ended up being a project manager for two telecommunication um, companies. They were large
Wow.
budgets, millions
Yeah.
in the budgets. And, um, I remember having worked until, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock the night before. And I came in um, to the office the next day. And I got there about 9 o'clock in the morning. And um, the little light on the phone is doing its thing, and the little
Yeah.
email thing is doing its thing. And I got into my office and I cleared out all the I cleared out all the emails. I took care of all the messages. Still hadn't had a cup of coffee, which was probably a bad idea for that day.
Yeah.
But everything was done. And I said, okay, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. And I went back and I got a cup of coffee and I came back to my office. And this is back in the day of pagers. You
Oh
didn't have
yeah.
cell phones back then. And the light was blinking on the phone. I could see the emails had come in, and the light was blinking on the phone. And I wasn't gone 10 minutes. And I punched it in, and it said, "You have 13 new messages." And that was it. I didn't even listen to the messages. I walked to HR. I gave them my beeper. I gave them my keys. I said, "I am so done with this. Goodbye."
Oh my gosh. So you got all these messages. You just were getting hammered with stuff. Is that it? And you just realized one day, hey, I've had enough of this junk.
I realized there was a point because I had been coming back to faith at that point,
Hmm.
and that's another story. But um, it was a point when, at that point, I realized that there was so much more to life than making money,
Yeah.
um, and I wanted that part of life.
There you go.
And and literally, I quit my job, and 6 months later, I was living in Montana. There you go.
Wow. So, and I know this is part of it. So you say you come to faith. You don't have to go into any detail you don't want to. Or you don't even have to mean that. So you were going through a time in your life where you were getting closer to God, I assume, and that
Mhm.
was having an influence. Do you think when do you think that the first sparks of a sense of call started to emerge? Was it somewhere in there? Did you sense something, or was it just this part of the journey?
Do you mind me talking about my faith? I don't
Please.
want to. I don't
Oh
want to offend
no,
your
no.
viewers at
Hey,
all.
I've
So,
I've had three. You're the fourth priest I've had on this, so come on.
okay,
It's not
you
just
need to reach
pilots.
out, find some more
I'm
friends, man.
working
We're
on it.
all
I'm
messed
working
up.
on it. I'm working on it, man. I'm getting authors on here. I don't want
Um,
politicians.
no, no, don't mess with them.
No, no.
But
But yeah, please talk about that, please.
I would read anything that someone would set down in front of me. I would read it. It had to be fiction because, for the most part, even back then, the real world, I get enough of that. So when I sit down and read something for relaxation, it's going to be fiction. And there's a point when you run out of books in the house and you got to read. And when I was living in Dallas, it was like, um, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night. I didn't have anything to read. But at Christmas, somebody had given me a book called "This Present Darkness" by a fellow by the name of Frank Peretti,
Okay.
and it's fun. It's got angels, it's got demons, it's got all kinds of fun things like that in it. And I read that book, and I really liked it, but it didn't have an emotional impact on me.
Hmm.
But then I was in the bookstore again, and there was another book, and it was called "Piercing the Darkness."
Mm.
And Piercing the Darkness is sort of a follow up to that. And there's a character in Piercing the Darkness called Sally Beth Rowe. And I read her life. And as I read about her life, I was reading about my life.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and on page 321 of that book, I mean, I'd read it to you right now if I could pull it off the shelf quickly enough. But on page 321 of that book, Sally Beth Rowe, she got saved in this most amazing way. And it was the 2x4 to the back of the head. It was a St. Paul on the road to Emmaus. Whatever you want to call it. I was done at that point. I was done running from my faith and from the church. I had quit church in high school. I hadn't stepped foot in a church for over a decade at that
Yep.
point.
Yep.
And then just bam. And from that point on, I remember very distinctly praying that um, I I want to be on the front line of this. I know things are going to happen. I want to be in the front line, and here we are. So
Here
it's
you
good
are
stuff. I love it.
you're on the
So
front line. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's interesting you mentioned that. I won't go into my story, but I had a similar experience where I actually had I guess he's kind of like a spiritual adopted dad that was kind of when I started coming back to faith again. But he gave me a book, and it's about a young man who had a faith experience, came back to church, got very involved. And then a friend of his came up to him and said, "Have you ever felt called to ordain ministry?" Well, my friend hands me this book and says, "Read it." And I went, "What do you mean?" He says, "Just read it." And I get to that part and I start crying, bawling. And I went,
Yeah.
"What's going on here?" So all I'm saying is that sometimes we think God speaks to us in a loud, booming voice. It's always that small voice, or sometimes it's through other means that we hear the call of God on our lives.
And I got to tell you this, since we're Frank Peretti did an autographing when his book The Oath came out in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the opportunity to go there, and there was a special release which I had bought because I just needed to have something. And I went to this book signing of his, and there was a line behind me out the door.
Oh,
And I
wow.
didn't care. I got down on, not on my knees as in worship, but I got down on my knees because I was going to take a minute with this man. And I told him what he had done for my life. And it was,
wow.
that was a remarkable moment to be able to say to him, because of you. Yeah, it was quite cool. So anyways.
And he, in a way, was kind of like how we are sometimes, is he was that person that influenced you indirectly sometimes. The things that we say, the way we live our lives, the way we write, we have an impact on people. We don't even realize it sometimes. So
yeah.
All right. So you you said you left marketing, you left your job, and you said that's when you moved to Montana.
Yeah.
Montana. You want to talk a little bit about that? What was that
You know
like?
what? I'm crazy, absolutely crazy. But when you're young and dumb, you have no responsibilities,
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
to yourself. You can do these things, and so
Yeah.
I moved to Montana, and I lived there for about 6 years.
Wow.
I attended a church on the Rock, and Pastor Mark Stearns, wonderful man. I went there one Sunday. I was so out of place, it was ridiculous. I was in a suit and everybody else was in blue jeans. And he said, "You're visiting us, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "What brings you?" And I said, "I'm an Episcopalian, but I've had some bad experiences there. I'm not going to go back to that." He said, Don't say that until you go visit St. John's Episcopal Church here in Butte, Montana." And he did. He
What?
literally said that. And the
Wow.
next Sunday, I went to St. John's Episcopal Church. And the following Sunday, I went back to the church on the Rock and said, "I want to thank you. I won't be back because I found my church home.
Oh my
I want to
goodness.
thank you for sending me up there." And I was born and baptized in the Episcopal Church,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah. How
that's
many
when I came
people?
home.
How many people go to a church like that and they send you where you need?
And they send
Well,
you somewhere else.
but you got to know that's the Spirit working in someone
That was
else.
the Spirit working.
He saw something in you that you were having a hard time seeing in yourself. He knew how to redirect you.
And then I went to that church, and when I was in Montana, I finished up Springhill and the books that I've written, and I wrote one called The Journey, which is somewhat of a spiritual autobiography, but
Hmm.
um, I had all kinds of odd jobs. I was working for an insurance agency. I
Hmm.
was actually working as the custodian of the church,
Oh wow!
and
At St. John's.
I at St. John's. And I would do that late at night, so like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then when I would finish mopping, cleaning toilets, scraping gum off the floor, whatever it was, I would go and sit at the high altar and I would say my prayers.
Oh wow!
And I was saying my prayers one night, and I said, "Lord, you gave me some smarts. You got me a good education. I'm really happy doing what I'm doing, but if there's something else you would like for me to do, you just need to tell me." And I will warn your listeners at this point, giving God an open-ended, sort of statement like that's a really bad idea. Um,
I agree.
the very next day, I received an application to seminary in the mail.
Oh,
Some of my friends had sent it to me. I did not request it. I was not thinking about it. Uh, it was a,
wow.
and I looked at God and said, "You gotta be kidding me."
Well, and when you're not seeking it specifically because you think that's your ultimate heart's desire, it kind of is embedded and God's drawing it out from you. That's amazing. That is
Yeah,
amazing. So let me ask you a quick question because I want to come back to that because that seems like
yeah,
the time
yeah.
where you started sensing a call, and I assume that's when you were going to seminary soon after that. But
hmm
you mentioned you wrote, was it your first book, Springhill?
Springhill. Yes, Springhill was the first book. Um,
You want to talk a little
and
bit about that book? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Springhill is so when you sit when you so you do a person does a lot of reading, and eventually they say, you know what, I can write a book. And well, that's how it worked for me. Maybe it doesn't work for everyone. And I said, I can write a book. And then you sort of go through this process of writing where um, you're writing how other people write. You're trying to imitate other
Right.
people.
Yeah.
And when I sat down and originally wrote Spring Hill, I think I had just finished reading The Bridges of Madison County. I
Oh
told you I
wow.
read anything. So,
Right.
and so
Right.
I sat down and I read, and so I started writing Spring Hill. But I was trying to sound like someone else. I was trying to
Sure.
copy someone else. And then after coming to faith, um, I wrote The Journey. And when I wrote The Journey, I really liked it, and I still really like it. Um, but I was trying to be the person that I thought other people expected me to be. And I was
Hmm.
trying to say the things that other people expected me to say. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. Right.
Um, but it's as a writer, it's not my voice.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and um, then I sat down and I started writing Father Anthony. This guy's a snarky guy. I mean, he's just awful sometimes. And he likes to drink scotch. Thank you. He occasionally slips with a swear. Um,
Is that you, John?
no, no, I'm very holy.
Oh
And
yeah,
but
I've known you for a long time now.
but when I wrote this guy, it's like I love this guy, and I sent it off to a couple of publishers when I wrote the first one, and somebody at a Posey mystery publisher picked it up, and they said, you got to clean out the blood and the swears, which is cozy mysteries and all that kind of thing,
Oh, I
but
got
then
you.
you got to make this main character a whole lot more likable because he's just not very nice. I'm like, well, that's the fun of writing him. And
Right.
so, and that's who I am. And I guess to a certain degree. And so I just self published because I wasn't going to get rid of Father Anthony. I just really like him.
A couple things I heard. I want to kind of see what
Sorry,
you
I
think
was
about this.
rambling there. I thought,
No, 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 no. You're great. You're great. So let me get this right. So Spring Hill. What was the second
yes,
book?
The Journey, which is
The Journey.
it's I would classify that one as a Christian fiction, which is
Hmm.
somewhat autobiographical, particularly in the first two or three chapters. But
Okay.
then but it's I think I had in mind when I wrote it. Gosh, what was the name of it? Well, where the slogan "What would Jesus do?" It came from that book. I can't remember the name of
Okay.
the title.
Oh, yeah. I can't either. I can't either. So the journey also had reflections to your life. Is that what you're saying a little bit?
It did. It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was the third book, Father? What was
The third book was Father Anthony Savel, the first mystery, the Golden Fistula,
Oh, I love
and
that. When I
and that
heard,
is
I
not
was,
an
I was
organ of the body. So
on the way, on the way home. I'm like, what was the name of that cool book he told me about? Something fistula, holy
yeah,
fistula. I couldn't remember what. And you say that book has some reflections of who you are as well, right? A little
reflections of
bit.
who I am. It's probably more who I am than anything that I tried to write. Um, but Father Anthony is just and there's a reflection of several of my friends in there. I mean, the other characters, not Father, but Anthony Stavlo is the police officer, and he's a very good friend of mine. But some of the other people are reflections of. I probably shouldn't do it, and so I won't name anybody. But Stavlo knows that I copied him for that one. So
you want to tell the listeners about my question today when I asked you, because I was sitting here going, for some reason I thought. Go ahead. You remember I sent you the text.
Oh yes, Mr. Canon to the ordinary. You thought you were the a model for the canon to the ordinary, or the canon to the bishop in book 1 and 2.
But I wasn't.
There might be a little bit of you in there.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit of you in there.
Is he kind and considerate and loving at all?
No.
Oh, then that's me. I'm kidding.
No,
so now we're
candid stick in the bum.
I am going to get these. This is my next cruise ship book series. I'm taking them all. Now, Father Anthony's a series, right?
Father Anthony, the Golden Fistula, and Father Anthony, the Marble Finger. And I am now working, and this one you'll love. I'm working on Father Anthony, the 42nd wife.
Oh my gosh!
Cheers to that. You figure it
cheers.
out. So.
Cheers! I'm not having what you're having, but that sounds really cool. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 books and a 5th on the way. Is that right?
And a 6th on the way.
And a 6th.
I'm doing a follow up to Springhill, which is called Birdie, Birdy.
Yeah.
In Springhill, there's a young boy named Birdie, and I know Birdie very well because I know myself. But he's an exceptionally minor character in Springhill. But I wanted to tell the story. I wanted to tell Birdie's story. And I have an older brother, and in the story, Birdie is the older brother. So I'm sort of switching the perspective for me. But it's not autobiographical, but it's emotionally autobiographical in some sense.
Okay.
And it's absolutely exhausting to write. And so I have to set it aside and go back to Father Anthony because he says what he wants to say.
I love it.
But Birdie is it's a book that I need to write, and that I should write.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one that you have to be. It's one that you could write and it'd be an okay. And if you're remarkably honest in your writing, it'll be more than that. And that, if I was to write a really great novel in my life, I think Birdie will be it. So,
I can't wait. I can't wait.
And you're going to wait a while because it's not ready yet. So.
Well, you got to make sure I've got links that I can put in the show notes where people can find your books too. So we want to make sure that we have some chance for people to read your wonderful work. You know, as I'm sitting here, I want to come back to seminary again and that whole experience. But it seems to me, from my own experience as a parish priest, but also a priest working on 2 different bishop staffs, because I was visiting churches every weekend and preaching, that I can only assume, and maybe you can kind of, how does your writing inform your sermon prep, and how does sermon prep inform your writing? Or do
That's a good question.
I get a few.
I think it goes back and forth. Wow, that's a good question. Well done, sir.
Well, thank you. I went to Sewanee. Don't hold it against me. I know. Don't hold it against me. Now we're for listeners who don't know what we're talking about. In the Episcopal Church, there's like 9 now seminaries, and we all like to brag about where we went to seminary. So John and I didn't go to the same seminary, but I still think we're brothers.
Absolutely.
In the ministry. All right, go ahead.
Absolutely.
We were talking about how they inform each other or not.
I don't know that they
writing.
necessarily inform them. Um, uh, my sermon writing is very much informed by one set of reading that I do, and it's not like I separate my world. It's not like I read, crazy stuff when I'm not reading for church or whatnot. But it's two. I am a Stephen King fan, and so my writing and my thinking, as far as fiction goes, really strongly relates to Stephen King. Although, even though he claims he's not a Christian, I firmly believe he's more Christian than most people wandering around in robes these days and calling themselves priests. But anyhow, again with the stuff, I
I
know.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have some more of that holy water you got.
Yeah. So I don't know that they inform one another, but they are not separated from one another. Father Anthony, in my role as a priest and writing sermons and in pastoral care, I know what my responsibilities are as a priest, and I am. I desire to be faithful, and I hope that I am faithful to that particular calling of holiness. Um, Father Anthony is almost like a pressure valve. Yeah, as sad as it may
It
seem,
makes
he's like
sense.
a pressure. Yeah, and he kind of occasionally says the things that I would like to say to a person or to the church. Um, and I don't know that my bishop would appreciate it all that much. So,
I
yeah,
love that because and a lot of folks may not realize that it is a blessed ministry to have, and there's many times since retiring from active ministry, I really miss it, and I still think God's got something planned for me at some point, I'm sure, but because that's who we are, that's who we're ontologically changed to be as a priest.
yes, yes,
But it is a very difficult vocation. It can be a very lonely vocation as well. And sometimes you're dealing with people at their best and people who are grieving or hurting, and they are sometimes at their worst. And we have to be there for them in all those places. And sometimes we need a relief valve. I love that Father Anthony can be your relief valve in a safe
he
way.
is my and my crazy cat, the queen, is here somewhere. She hasn't showed up tonight, but she's around somewhere. Yeah. I mean, when I come home at night, I come home to my cat, and I love to cook and things like that. And so I come home to those types of things, and um, it's a very quiet. My life is very quiet,
Yeah.
um, and
But
yeah. Anyways,
but you also have a very full life. You have a very wonderful vocation as a priest, at which you're doing a
oh yeah,
wonderful job. You're an accomplished writer. 5 books, six on two more on the way. Two more on
4 and 2, yeah.
4 and 2. Goodness
Mhm.
gracious! But you said you love to cook, and we know a guy who was such a good culinary expert. Well, let's go beyond culinary, but I want to use the right language here. But he actually had the ability to turn water into wine.
Ah, yes,
You know
that
where
guy.
I'm leading on this, don't
I
you?
know where that's going, brother.
But dear Father John, my brother from another mother in Oklahoma, has another avocation. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
If you were, say, to go into a wine shop where they sold, let's say, 400 different varieties of wine, and you were to try each one of those, well, number one, you'd be liquored up completely. But if you were to try them over in a period of time, you would say, this one is good, and this one is good, and this one is good. And then I was to hand you a bottle of a no name brand, one you've never heard of,
Hmm.
and you were to try that, you would say to yourself, my God, this is the best wine I've ever had in my life. It will have been one of mine. So,
You've got to send me a link to where we can send these listeners to go buy your wine. Talk to us about your wine and how did that come
oh
about?
gosh, it was one of these days that I like to make. Well, I just thought it'd be fun to try to make some wine.
Yeah.
The first batch, I think I tried to make. I think I tried to boil some grapes and got the juice. It was ridiculous, and it tasted. Yeah. Um, uh, and then one day I said, I'd like to try to make wine. So I make like, it only makes like 30 bottles at a time. So you can't buy it. I can't
Only
sell it.
30.
Oh, yeah, only 30. Yeah. And when you say, oh, yeah, I only make 6 gallons of wine, everybody's like, and so, but I have a delightful time making wines, and I've made Malbecs and I've made Cabs. I don't make that much white. I'm a red wine fan.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's, I don't know, the fermentation process, the yeast. This last batch that I made um, was actually a very inexpensive sort of kit that came, but then I had the opportunity to add my own flavors and particular oak chips to it, so you get sort of the barreled wine flavor. To I got to tell you, it was good. That's some
Oh
good
my.
wine right there.
Um, I'm coming to Oklahoma, Terry and I, and
I'll hook you up.
you'll hook me up. All right.
I'll hook
So,
you up.
but that is so cool because that is a part of you have this wonderful vocation, but you have these threads of other things that you're doing that is just taking your sense of who you are and what you enjoy and how you live life to a whole new direction that other people may not even know about. I mean, I didn't know that you
Oh,
made wine until I think you posted on the internet one time. This, by the way, you should see the awesome labels that he has on these.
making the labels is almost as much fun as making the wine. It's a good time. So,
Making a dress is almost as no. Anyway, so so wow. Now I don't want to get it too far away from we were talking about seminary, but I wanted to talk about the fact that you're a priest. You are a business guy, business background. We share that. We're both priests. We share that. I have a kind of an avocation of aviation. You've got winemaking and writing, and it just makes us, I think, a whole person. So I want to go back to seminary for a second. So you got this
sure.
application. We're changing gears now a little bit. So because I think it all kind of will come back. You got this application from some friends to Nashotah House. Is that right?
I did. No, actually, it was, oh gosh, I don't know, the one in Pennsylvania.
Mm, oh, I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Ambridge,
Ambridge, Pennsylvania.
some
Trinity. Trinity.
Trinity.
Yeah, they were at
Okay.
Trinity at the time. They sent it to me. Um, and so I had a bishop in Montana who was under investigation at the time. That should tell you something. And he wasn't going to let me go to Trinity, but then he allowed me. He said, you can go to Swanee, and which is in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Yep.
And I said, okay. So I went and interviewed at Swanee. I didn't like it, no. Um, but I got
We all
accepted.
we all have our thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was waiting for a letter from Swanee because they said, "Oh yeah, we'll pay for everything. Come see us."
Yep.
And I was like, "Okay." But in the process, my bishop at that time, he kind of got deposed,
Oh,
and so I was left
it happens, unfortunately. Yeah.
in the wings, and I was under the standing committee at that time. And I said, "Well, Bishop so and so said that I could go to Nashotah House," and they were like, "Oh, fine, go to Nashotah." They didn't care, and so I went to Nashotah House, and I ended up in Nashotah in Wisconsin. So,
Nice. And
yeah,
so a Master's of Divinity that we get in the Episcopal Church is a 3-year in residence,
yes,
professional Master's of Divinity, and it's pretty intense. You're living in community. Two of my
hmm
best friends in ministry um, both went to Nashotah House, and so I have a lot of friends from Nashotah. So I love Sewanee, but I'm pretty flexible with who I hang out with, and hopefully you are too. Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
so you finish up your Master's of Divinity, right? 3 years into that, were you writing during that time too?
Um,
Oh,
you
wait a
may
minute.
not want to. You may want to
Well,
just edit this right out too.
well, let
So,
me rephrase this. Seminary's intense. We read 1,000+ pages a week. We're in chapel all the time. We're writing multiple papers. Blah blah blah. I imagine you may not have been writing much on books and stuff while you were in seminary. But were you?
no, I was
Not
not.
okay. Okay. But we can edit something, but you got to kind of tell me where it is.
Well, it's right here in seminary because
Oh,
the
okay.
year before I got, and we can leave. You can leave it in. I don't care. It's fine by me. Um, but the year before I went to seminary, I got married, and
Okay.
I was married for 13 years,
Where are you now?
and yes, and I got married in 2001. The summer I went to seminary, like 2 months, and it was like shipping me off to war. Um, I was gone for a year. I came home from a summer, and then my ex-wife moved to seminary after during the second year,
Mhm.
and I was married for 13 years, and I graduated, you know, from the Shoda with my master's, and then in 2013. Um, I was going to graduate with my doctorate of ministry.
Oh, wow.
And um, basically, I was told I had to go and defend my thesis and then graduate. And was told, if you go, I'll divorce you. And
Oh, my.
I took her up on the offer. So
Mm.
I don't know who's to blame in that one. I know I'm partly, there's plenty of blame to go around.
I
It's
no, I
just,
understand.
it is.
I mean, if unless I have no, and I'll kind of edit how we're talking about this, but I've been married before too, and I was married for 11 years, and Terry and I've been together. We've been married now for 26 years. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean that happens sometimes, and it's a shame that you had to face that kind of emotional challenge when you're trying to be faithful to your ministry call. But in a way, it worked out if you think about it, and hopefully, it worked out for both of you at some point.
I hope
Uh,
so. I hold no ill will.
yeah,
It's just part of life. This is your podcast is about changes and
yeah.
the way that things change and people change, and you know, sometimes it ain't easy. It's really not
No.
easy. So,
So, what you? It's obviously painful. I know divorce is always painful. Personally, I understand that.
mm,
But going through an experience like that's absolutely life altering. It is. It's one of the most stressful events you can go through. On the other side of that, and maybe even as you pass through that, we people of resurrection believe that you can't get to Easter Sunday without going through Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday.
yes,
You can't experience resurrection until you've experienced death in some way. So
I
that's a
was I preached on this Sunday, and it was. Come on, John. Oh, I'm not going to remember who said it. I'll have to look it up and I'll send it to you. You can say,
yeah, yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
do this," but he was talking about it's Pope Francis. It's Pope Francis, and he was
Mhm.
talking about how the devil is the Lord of the penultimate day, the day
Mm,
before, and he was preaching on Holy Saturday, the day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday,
sure,
and he
yeah,
said that the devil is the Lord of the penultimate day, the day before,
yeah.
and then there's resurrection.
And then there's
He's not that
resurrection.
he is never the Lord of the last day. And
Yeah,
I just thought that was so brilliant. I preached that this Sunday, and I hope my people heard it.
that's amazing. And you've experienced, and probably more than that, I know I have. Throughout our lives, we experience these little deaths of either relationship or vocation or something. But if we are people of hope, we can believe in the fact that even if it's not in this life, we'll experience new life. And that's the promises that God offers us, is that even through nothing stands between us and the love of God, not principality or
That's it.
power. Boy, this wasn't supposed to be a religious. Well, how can it not be? You
You
got
got
two
two
priests
priests. What are you going to
got two
do?
priests on a podcast. Uh, so okay, going back to the seminary. So you graduate, you
Where
get your
were we?
doc. Yeah. What was your first call like? I'm curious about that.
Oh Lord. So after I was in Butte, Montana, I went to my priest. I said to my priest, um, so I was thinking maybe I would like to go to seminary. And my priest looked at me and we were wondering how long it would take you to figure this out. And so, um,
Everybody else knows before us, don't they?
yeah, I did. I remember very distinctly that there was a day when I was wrestling with God and I was arguing with God. And so I went to my friend's house who lived, they lived out in the country. They had a ranch and they had about 50, 100 calves when it was, cows when it was calving season. And I went out and I sat on the side of a mountain and I prayed. And I looked out and I said to God that, um, I understand you want me to do this, but I have to be honest with you. I've never lived anywhere that's more beautiful than this. And very, one of those very clear moments when the Lord said to me, I will show you things more beautiful than this.
Oh, wow. Oh,
And,
wow.
and then I said, that's nice, but for the first, I mean, I'm kind of a quiet guy. I'm kind of a loner guy. I've never had a lot of, and this is not a woe with me, poor pity John. It's none of that.
No, no,
I've
no.
just never had a lot of friends or anything like that. And I said, I said to the Lord, I said, I've never had friends like this before because I had some very close friends in church who'd been praying with me, been with me, and that we could be with. And I said, I've never had friends like this in my life,
Hmm.
and I really don't want to leave them. And this is
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
time, when you talk to people about prayer and they distinguish between um, hearing the voice of the Father and of the Son and the Spirit of Mary, and you could hear the different voices. And it was one of those voices when I said I don't want to leave my friends. When I very clearly heard the voice of Jesus say to me, "In order to do the will of the Father, I had to leave my friends too."
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I was out of arguments at that point.
Yeah.
I
At that
had
point,
nothing left. I had nothing
okay.
left.
Here I am, Lord, use me. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm done. Okay. Yeah. You can argue with him all you like. You're going to lose, but you can argue with him. He'll let
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. What's that old
So,
saying? I laugh at it, but it is true. Make God laugh, make a plan.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
At
Mine's,
that point,
mine's,
I knew I was going to be a priest, and I'll do it until I'm too tired, too tired to keep going.
yeah,
I'll keep doing
absolutely.
it. So,
Absolutely. So you finished seminary. You had a now is Saint you're at Saint Matthew's
I'm at St. Matthew's.
in Enid, but that wasn't your first call. You mentioned
No,
earlier
no,
you had several churches, or you had at
was
one time you had several churches.
I was the priest of, or the vicar, or whatever they called us at the time. We eventually renamed it because St. Joan of Arc's regional ministry. If we're going to do this thing, we're going to they called us the Pentler Cluster, and I just thought that was kind of lame. And so
Because it was
I
a
renamed,
cluster of churches.
I renamed this to the St. Joan of Arc regional ministry. Everybody loved it. And so I had St. James in Deer Lodge, St. Mark's in Anaconda, and St. Andrew's in Phillipsburg. And then
Wow.
there was a mess in Butte, Montana. And so we eventually, after about 6 years into that, we started St. Mary's in Butte. And then the priest who was at St. John's, not when I was being raised up there, but afterwards, he finally retired and the bishop gave me that one. So I had St. John's in Butte. So I had five churches at
Oh
once.
my goodness.
Yeah, I was kind of crazy. Um,
I tell you what, that marketing background came in handy, didn't
woo, baby.
it?
Um, and so I was doing about 20,000 miles a year running around this
Oh my
big mountain that was
gosh.
basically in the middle of this thing. And
Oh my.
um, I would do, on a Sunday, I would do a 9 o'clock in Deer Lodge, an 11 o'clock in Anaconda, a 4:30 in Phillipsburg one Sunday, and then the next Sunday I would go to Butte and do a 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock. And finally, I just like, we're done here.
Oh
So
my goodness. And you did it for how long now?
I did five for like 2 years.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, it was a much.
Wow.
It was a bit much. It was a bit
That's a
much.
lot.
Yeah, but I
Wow.
did three for, well, the years leading up to that. I did the three churches. So
Right. So what did having all those churches, all those different people, all that responsibility, um, how was that for you? I mean, how did you feel about that kind of ministry? Was it wearing you down? Did you feel energized by it? Were there things that you learned from that you brought into your future ministry? What was that like? I'm just trying to imagine. I mean, I've been a canon of the ordinary with 66. The bishop had 66 churches, and I visited all of them. I mean, that's one thing to visit them. To visit, let's go have cake afterwards, and I get to go back to the office on Monday. But to stay with those folks through all of life's challenges, what was that like?
Can I just say 5 vestry meetings in 1 month? That's
Oh
all you
my
got to
God.
know.
Okay, for listeners that don't know, a vestry is a council of a church, and it's like the board of directors in a
Yeah.
small way of a particular congregation. And what John's saying is 5 business meetings a month was not fun.
It was, but you know what? Um, it gave me life. I knew I had purpose. I still know I have purpose.
Yeah.
Um, and when I was living there, it was my purpose for being there and doing it. It was exciting work. I mean, building a new church, St. Mary's, was exciting.
Oh wow.
Going into St. John's after the former rector had left. I mean, when I left, it had an average Sunday attendance of about 200, and then when it was given to,
Wow.
when I took it over, it had an average Sundays of 3.
Oh my goodness.
And we went in, and one of the within
Wow.
the first month, we cleaned it out, and we cleaned out, those big roll off dumpsters.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And when you take them to the dump, they weigh it. We
Yeah.
cleared out 5.5 tons of garbage out of that church.
Oh
We
my
cleared
goodness.
out drug paraphernalia. We cleared out, I mean, it was awful.
Oh
And
my goodness.
we basically went in and did an exorcism. Sorry, we did an exorcism afterward. And, but I mean, it was really great work. It was good work. It's still good
Not
work. I
literally,
still love
not
it.
literally, folks. It wasn't literally an
No,
exorcism.
no, no, we didn't
No,
do that
no, no,
really.
no,
No.
no, 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 no. Figuratively, yes.
Yeah, yeah, figuratively. We don't do
Wow.
those sort of things. So, I
That
mean, but
that
it was,
that had to be a reward, and to know that on that mountain about leaving your friends, and Jesus had to leave his friends to do the work that he needed to do. To know that you were doing that work and you were called to it and you were the right person at the right time with the right people, that you've seen God's work in your life. That's got to be so affirming of that call that you had from the beginning.
it absolutely was. And I still feel called to
Oh
do
yeah.
what I'm doing. I still feel completely inadequate and um, the least of these and the greatest of the sinners.
Yeah.
Um, but I also, I don't remember the name of the movie, but I can't imagine doing anything else. I honestly
Yeah.
can't.
And
Um, no.
you said something that really touched me is that the person that's doing ministry in a parish or on a bishop's staff or a bishop or anyone who somehow thinks that they have this specialness to do it, are they're fooling themselves. In the rite of reconciliation, the reconciliation of a penitent, when we offer absolution or the affirmation of God's forgiveness to the person who's just confessed their sins to us, we actually ask the person who has asked forgiveness and been given absolution
Pray
to
for
pray
me.
for us because I'm a sinner. Pray for me, a sinner. And when
Yeah.
we forget that as priests, we forget our vocation. And
You're lost.
you lost for sure.
Yeah.
My goodness. My goodness. So now you're at St. Matthew's, and I
I
know
am.
you are happy as a pig in whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yes, I am. So
I love it. I love it.
there's plenty
Oh,
of work to do here. They are wonderful people. It's an excellent community.
mhm.
There's always the call of the gospel. There's always the call of the need of Christ in the world, and to try and discern what that is. And um, it's good work, and they are
Yeah,
faithful at it. So yeah.
absolutely. Am I wrong on this, John? Too, because you have this wonderful parish, but you enrich the experiences and educational opportunities for your congregation. Am I wrong? You actually take them on pilgrimages. Did you go to England or did you go to the Holy? Did Am I wrong about
I
that?
have not done that yet.
Oh, okay.
I want to be able to do that. We were attempting to do a pilgrimage to Jerusalem,
Yes.
but
Okay.
then it kind of got a little ugly over there, so
Yeah.
we were not able to.
I was thinking maybe you had, or maybe you were talking about it or something. But
Yeah.
wow, what another opportunity to actually, open up the gospel in a very realistic and in your, real tangible way. If you ever could do that. So, but you love to travel, right?
I love to travel, and last year I had the opportunity to go on sabbatical, and but I love to blog. I blog every day when I'm away. I send everybody pictures of what I'm doing and all this kind of stuff. Look, on the bottom of the screen you can find the blog, um, johnftoles.com. Plug it.
John F.
But
Toles. We'll put that in the show notes, everyone. John F.
thank you very
Toles
much.
dot com.
Uh,
That's the plug.
That's a plug. But I
There's no
had the
commercial transactions.
opportunity. Oh, no, none at all. None. Oh, thank you, buddy. Um, I had the opportunity to go on sabbatical last year, and my goal was to walk the Camino de Santiago.
Right.
And I was going to start at St. Jean Pied de Port and walk to Santiago, Spain. I got about 118 miles in. Um, it was remarkable. And I broke a bone in my foot, and it was a stress fracture, and I couldn't finish. And I mean,
Hmm.
everything went downhill from there. I mean, I had to spend like 10 days in Ireland, and then there was a month in Norway. It was just awful. It was
That's
awful.
terrible. A month in Ireland and no, a month in
Tell you,
Norway.
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
how terrible is that? Oh,
Oh,
you have such a hard life, John.
I know. I
Oh,
got to go
John.
to the Cathedral of Saint Olaf, and in Trondheim, I took a cruise along the coast of Norway.
Oh my goodness.
Um, I traveled by train from Oslo to Bergen in Norway, and it was the middle of the summer, and it was a frozen wasteland up there. It was some of the most
Oh my
beautiful
goodness. Oh
you've
my
ever. It
goodness.
was just gorgeous. It was amazing. So yeah,
I envy your travel. Terry and I have plans over the next couple of years to go to Europe and do some traveling too. So I'll be calling you up, going, "Hey John, I need some wine and I need some
ooh,
suggestions."
I hook you up. I
and
hook
I'll
you up.
work a flight out for you. How's that?
Okay. Oh,
So,
nice.
so we got a couple things to kind of. John, first off, I want to thank you for spending time with me, brother.
Yes.
It's such a
Thank
good
you.
idea. I've learned so much more about a friend that I didn't know, and I feel richer for our friendship. But even knowing more about you, this is a guy who is a faithful priest serving a wonderful congregation who began his journey as a business person like me, but found his call that was knocking on his door when he wasn't necessarily looking for it and everybody else saw it. That's
Mhm.
a good way it happens. But he's an
Yeah.
author. He's published. He's done amazing things. He's a world traveler. He's got a wonderful cat named the Queen, and I bet she is babied like the Queen. Um,
Oh, yes.
and he's a winemaker, an author, a priest, and just an incredible guy. And I'm grateful for you being here. There's a couple things that I do, and I've got three things I'd like to do. First off is
Okay.
what I'm calling the lightning round. It's 4 questions, and this is
Okay.
quick. You don't have to go through a lot of depth, but just quick answers. What is the most favorite place that you've ever traveled?
Favorite place? It has to be Trondheim, Norway.
Norway.
It was stunning to visit the cathedral there of Saint Olaf. I just mentioned it, but I got there by boat, and you get off the boat and you walk into the city, and it's just fascinating, just
All right.
beautiful. So,
Fantastic. The name of and a short little snippet about a mentor who shaped you. First
mentor
name.
who shaped first.
First name only.
Um, Goodness, Thomas, and you know his last name because it's a Kempis, and it's someone that I read. It's Thomas Kempis.
Thomas Kempis.
The
Well, that's
Imitation of Christ.
yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I that may be the answer to the next question. A book or quote that's influenced you the most.
There are um, three books that have influenced me, and one is The Imitation of Christ, which has really influenced me. A second on that would be The Way by Saint Jose Maria Escriva, the founder of Opus Dei. But there's a book that I have started reading. This is not a plug for something that new and I don't know, I can't think of anything to say. But I came across a book called The Dignity and Duties of the Priest by Saint Alphonsus Liguori,
Ooh,
um, and it is without a doubt. Um,
I'm writing that down.
The Dignity and Duties of the Priest by Saint Alphonsus Liguori. Um, as far as my position and my role as a priest, because first and foremost, cook, winemaker, traveler, whatever, priest is who I am.
Hmm.
I have not had a book influence me more in my work and ministry than this book has in the last months that I have been reading it. So, yeah.
That's after your books. That'll be on my list. How's that?
Good.
All right. Couple more things. First off is looking back. How would the younger John back in Dallas chasing wealth react to the life that the mature John, almost my age,
Mhm.
the life that you've built now? How would that younger John look at the life you've built now?
He'd think I was a total wackadoodle. He would think that I was crazy, but I think he would remember back to his childhood, um, and I think he would remember the John who, when he was like 7 or 8, wanted to sit down and read the Bible through,
Oh wow.
and then he would say, "Okay, so maybe there was a little something way back there." But I think the
Ooh.
teenager and the college guy would be like, "Oh, you're crazy." But
Ah.
I, th- I think if both of them sat down and thought about it long enough, they would say, maybe there was something there."
Wow. That's important when we think about that. That's good. So
Yeah.
you just kind of shared that there were stirrings in you at a young age that you really weren't fully developed yet, it seems.
My papa, when I was 4 years old, my dad's dad, I'll tell you another story. My papa,
Yeah.
just real quick, my papa and I were sitting out on the front porch of their house, which was on the Church of God campgrounds. And it was just my grandma was at home, and my papa and myself were there. My papa and I we were shooting a BB gun at the burn barrel across the street. And my grandma tells me the story. When I was 4 years old, we came in the house, and my papa put his hand on my head and said, "This is going to be my little preacher."
Oh
And
my.
yeah,
Wow.
and my papa was a Church of God minister,
Yeah.
and and some people thought he was a prophet, but he said, "This one's going to be my little preacher." And yeah, I think all of that sort of, none of these things happen to us without a reason. They really don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even the little
That's
blessings from your pawpaw when you were 4.
absolutely. Well, he was maybe he was a prophet. It sounds to me like
Yeah, I think
he had a
so.
very prophetic way about him.
Yeah,
So, all right.
last question.
Here's the closing question, and then I'm going to put a plug in for your website again.
Okay.
Shameless,
Thank
a
you.
shameless plug.
I appreciate it.
If you were to sit down with someone, not a parishioner, could be a parishioner, anybody, and you're giving them advice or encouragement because they're facing a major change, or they have to take a risk to do something different, or they're sensing that there's stirrings in their life. Maybe not to ordain ministry. Maybe it's a new job, or maybe it's something.
Mhm.
They're in their 50s or 60s, and they're thinking about doing something totally different. You're sitting down with them. What advice would you give them?
I would tell them, don't be foolish. Um, Sometimes quitting your job and moving to Montana, it's not the best advice that anyone would give you. Sometimes it is. Don't be foolish.
Don't do as I
Uh,
do.
don't if you can get away with it, can. If you have responsibilities to other people, you have to honor those responsibilities.
Right.
So honor your responsibilities. Don't be foolish. Um, don't be afraid.
Oh,
Just don't
wow.
be afraid.
Wow. That is so powerful, John. And this is a common theme that I hear from people like you and me and others that I've talked to who've really had the courage to go out and kind of step outside their own comfort zones is is don't be afraid. I'll not
Don't
forget
be
that.
afraid.
And
Yeah.
don't be foolish. Don't be foolish, but don't be
Yeah,
afraid.
don't be foolish. I mean,
Yeah.
there's smart
Don't-
ways of not being afraid.
Yeah.
You know.
I love it. I love it. John, you are a awesome guy, brother, and a wonderful priest and a dear friend. I am so blessed. I'm so glad we got to have this call. We're going to talk again off Zoom.
Oh, okay, okay.
And not recording. I want to hear more. And
Oh, you just want the wine.
I just want. I want to spend some time with my brother too. So yeah, folks, thanks so much for being a part of this podcast and listening in to my dear brother, the Reverend Dr. John Toles, priest, winemaker, author, traveler. You should have a TV show on Create TV. You know that, don't you?
I know.
There you go. And he has you can look at and learn more about his books and his blog. And you can find that on www.john, JOHNF, as in Frank, but it's John F. Toles, TOLES.com. There'll be that link in the show notes so you can actually go and check out some of John's amazing things. John, thank you, brother. So good to have you on the show. And dear listeners,
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, sir. And dear listeners, thank you so much for joining and listening in on our podcast. I try to put a new episode out every 2 weeks, and as we get more and more guests on our show, I'll try to add that and get it to every week. But I may have to quit doing other things. But we're so glad that you're listening in. Please do so. Please subscribe. We're on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube. And we're on Apple Podcasts. So, and if you like the show, please share that with your friends. If you're dreaming or thinking about making a change in your life, as Father John, my dear friend John, said, don't be foolish, but for goodness sakes, don't be afraid. Go out there, chase your dreams. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. We'll talk to you again, and tune in a couple weeks. John.